The King. King Charles III, formerly known as the Prince of Wales, became king on the death of his mother Queen Elizabeth II on 8 September 2022. In addition to his official and ceremonial duties in the United Kingdom and overseas as the Prince of Wales, His Majesty has taken a keen and active interest in all areas of public life for decades. The King has been instrumental in establishing more than 20 charities over 40 years, including the Prince's Trust, the Prince's Foundation and the Prince of Wales's Charitable Fund (PWCF). His Majesty has worked closely with many organizations publicly supporting a wide variety of causes relating to the environment, rural communities, the built environment, the arts, healthcare and education. Biography. Early life. The Prince of Wales, eldest son of the Queen and Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, was born at Buckingham Palace at 9:14 p.m. on 14 November 1948. A month later, on the 15th of December, Charles Philip Arthur George was christened in the music room at Buckingham Palace by the Archbishop of Canterbury, Geoffrey Fisher. The Prince's mother was proclaimed Queen Elizabeth II at the age of 25, when her father, King George VI, died aged 56 on 6 February 1952. On the Queen's accession to the throne, Prince Charles, as the sovereign's eldest son, became heir apparent at the age of 3. The Prince, as heir to the throne, took on the traditional titles of the Duke of Cornwall under a charter of King Edward III in 1337, and in the Scottish peerage of Duke of Rothesay, Earl of Carrick, Baron Renfrew, Lord of the Isles and Prince and Great Steward of Scotland. The Prince was 4 at his mother's coronation, in Westminster Abbey on 2 June 1953. Many who watched the coronation have vivid memories of him seated between his widowed grandmother, known as Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, and his aunt Princess Margaret. Education. The Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh decided that the Prince should go to school, rather than have a tutor at the palace. The Prince started at Hill House School in West London on 7 November 1956. After 10 months, the young Prince became a boarder at Cheam School, a preparatory school in Berkshire. In 1958, while the Prince was at Cheam, the Queen created him the Prince of Wales and Earl of Chester. The Prince was 9 years old. In April 1962, the Prince began his first term at Gordonstown, at a school near Elgin in eastern Scotland, which the Duke of Edinburgh had attended. The Prince of Wales spent 2 terms in 1966 as an exchange student at Timbertop, a remote outpost of the Geelong Church of England Grammar School in Melbourne, Australia. When he returned to Gordonstown for his final year, the Prince of Wales was appointed school guardian head boy. The Prince, who had already passed 6 O-levels, also took A-levels, and was awarded a grade B in history and a C in French, together with a distinction in an optional special history paper in July 1967. The Prince went to Cambridge University in 1967 to read archaeology and anthropology at Trinity College. He changed to history for the second part of his degree and in 1970 was awarded a 2:2 degree. Investiture and military career. His Royal Highness was invested as Prince of Wales by the Queen on 1 July 1969 in a colourful ceremony at Carnarvon Castle. Before the investiture, the Prince had spent a term at the University College of Wales at Aberystwyth, learning to speak Welsh. On 11 February 1970, His Royal Highness took his seat in the House of Lords. On 8 March 1971, the Prince flew himself to Royal Air Force RAF, Cranwell in Lincolnshire, to train as a jet pilot. At his own request, the Prince had received flying instruction from the RAF during his second year at Cambridge. In September 1971, after the passing out parade at Cranwell, the Prince embarked on a naval career, following in the footsteps of his father, grandfather, and both his great-grandfathers. The 6-week course at the Royal Naval College, Dartmouth, was followed by service on the guided missile destroyer HMS Norfolk and 2 frigates. The Prince qualified as a helicopter pilot in 1974 before joining 845 Naval Air Squadron, which operated from the commando carrier HMS Hermes. On 9 February 1976, the Prince took command of the coastal minehunter HMS Bronington for his last 9 months in the Navy. Family and married life. On 29 July 1981, the Prince of Wales married Lady Diana Spencer in St. Paul's Cathedral. Lady Diana's father, then Viscount Althorp and later the 8th Earl Spencer, had been an equerry to both George VI and the Queen. Her maternal grandmother Ruth Lady Fermoy was a close friend and lady-in-waiting to the Queen Mother. The Prince and Princess of Wales had two sons, Prince William, born on 21 June 1982, and Prince Harry, born on 15 September 1984. From the time of their marriage, the Prince and Princess of Wales went on overseas tours and carried out many engagements together in the UK. On 9 December 1992, the Prime Minister, John Major, announced to the House of Commons that the Prince and Princess of Wales had agreed to separate. The marriage was dissolved on 28 August 1996. The princess was still regarded as a member of the royal family. She continued to live at Kensington Palace and to carry out her public work for a number of charities. When the princess was killed in a car crash in Paris on 31 August 1997, the Prince of Wales flew to Paris with her two sisters to bring her body back to London. On the day of the funeral, the Prince of Wales accompanied his two sons, Prince William, aged 15, and Prince Harry, aged 12 at the time, as they walked behind the coffin from the Mall to Westminster Abbey. With them were the Duke of Edinburgh and the princess's brother, Earl Spencer. The Prince of Wales asked the media to respect his sons' privacy to allow them to lead a normal school life. In the years that followed, Prince William, who is now heir to the throne, and Prince Harry accompanied their father on a limited number of official engagements in the UK and abroad. On 9 April 2005, the Prince of Wales and Camilla Parker Bowles were married in a civil ceremony at the Guildhall, Windsor. After the wedding, Mrs. Parker Bowles became known as HRH, the Duchess of Cornwall. The Prince of Wales and the Duchess of Cornwall were joined by around 800 guests at a service of prayer and dedication at St. George's Chapel, Windsor Castle. The service was followed by a reception at Windsor Castle hosted by Her Majesty the Queen. Elizabeth II, former Queen of the United Kingdom. When she was born in Mayfair in 1926, Princess Elizabeth, later the Queen, and her family did not expect that she would one day become monarch. But everything changed in December 1936 when her uncle King Edward VIII abdicated, making her father king and her next in line to the throne. The Queen was born at 2.40 on 21 April 1926 at 17 Bruton Street in Mayfair, London, the London home of her maternal grandparents, the Earl and Countess of Strathmere. She was the first child of the Duke and Duchess of York, who later became King George VI and Queen Elizabeth. She was christened Elizabeth Alexandra Mary at Buckingham Palace on the 29th of May that year. At the time, she stood third in the line of succession to the throne after Edward, Prince of Wales, later King Edward VIII, and her father, the Duke of York. The princess was christened Elizabeth Alexandra Mary in the private chapel at Buckingham Palace. She was named after her mother, while her two middle names are those of her paternal great-grandmother Queen Alexandra and paternal grandmother Queen Mary. The princess's early years were spent at 145 Piccadilly, the London house taken by her parents shortly after her birth, and at White Lodge in Richmond Park. She also spent time at the homes of her paternal grandparents, King George V and Queen Mary, such as Windsor Castle, Balmoral Castle and Sandringham House, and those of her mother's parents, the Earl and Countess of Strathmere, including Glamis Castle in Angus, Scotland, and St. Paul's, Walden Bury in Hertfordshire. In 1930, Princess Elizabeth's sister, Princess Margaret Rose, was born. The family of four were very close. When Princess Elizabeth was 6 years old, her parents took over Royal Lodge in Windsor Great Park as their own country home. In the grounds of Royal Lodge, she was given her own small house, YBW Thynbach, the Little Cottage, a gift from the people of Wales for her 6th birthday in 1932. The abdication of King Edward VIII, Princess Elizabeth's quiet family life came to an end in 1936, when her grandfather King George V died. His eldest son came to the throne as King Edward VIII, but before the end of the year, King Edward VIII had decided to give up the throne in order to marry Mrs. Wallis Simpson. Upon King Edward VIII's abdication, Princess Elizabeth's father acceded to the throne as King George VI, and in May 1937 the two princesses attended their parents' coronation in Westminster Abbey. From now on, Princess Elizabeth was the first in line to the throne, and a figure of even more intense public interest. In 1940, at the height of the Blitz, the young princesses were moved for their safety to Windsor Castle, where they spent most of the war years. While at Windsor, Princess Elizabeth and Princess Margaret continued their education, participated in air raid drills, and were subject to food rationing and other privations along with the rest of the country. The King and Queen joined them at Windsor whenever possible, but continued to stay in London, touring the country in support of the war effort, including meeting communities who had suffered from bombing raids. It was a time of austerity and anxiety for the whole country, including the royal family. But at Christmas time there was a period of light relief when the young princesses put on pantomimes with the children of members of staff for the enjoyment of their family and employees of the royal household. Princess Elizabeth and Princess Margaret were educated at home like many girls from wealthy families at that time. After her father succeeded to the throne in 1936 and Princess Elizabeth became heir presumptive first in line to the throne, she started to study constitutional history and law as preparation for her future role. She received tuition from her father, as well as sessions with Henry Marten, the Vice Provost of Eton. She was also educated in religion by the Archbishop of Canterbury. Princess Elizabeth learned French from a number of French and Belgian governesses. It is a skill which has stood the Queen in good stead, particularly on visits to French-speaking Canada and to French-speaking countries. Princess Elizabeth also studied art and music, learned to ride horses, and became a strong swimmer. She enrolled as a Girl Guide when she was 11, later becoming a Sea Ranger. And she won the Children's Challenge Shield at London's Bath Club when she was 13. While at Windsor during the war, the princess also competed at the first Royal Windsor Horse Show in 1944. Driving a Norwegian pony named Hansen in a carriage with her sister as passenger, Princess Elizabeth won the single private driving class.